السلام عليكم واهلا وسهلا. اليوم بننتقل الى الموتى في 3 مقابر متجاورة، مقبرة للمسلمين، مقبرة للمسيحيين، ومقبرة لليهود. خلينا نشوف مقبرة اليهود من داخل كتصوير حصري نعرف كيف عملية تشييع الجنائز.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The Jewish cemetery is located next to the Christian cemetery and the Ticket Amin. Ticket Amin is an iconic eating takeaway location, and it is also on Zubara Avenue and Ma'arif Avenue. So our cemetery is exactly next door to the Christian cemetery, and some Jews in the early days, going over 100 years back, were buried in the Christian cemetery, but we don't know who they are. So it was only around the time of about 100 years ago or so that they mapped out an area for the Jewish cemetery. The Jewish tradition is to avoid going to the cemetery because they feel that there is a lot of bad luck about going to a cemetery. So people don't like going to a cemetery. So nobody visited the cemetery from 1950s onwards. And then in 1993, when my uncle, Allah yarhamah, Azra Nunu, passed away, we all had to do the cemetery, the ceremony in the cemetery. And the cemetery was like a jungle. We had a very difficult time preparing the graves and everything, and we had to redo the cemetery completely. So the maintenance was taken over. I started doing the maintenance from the time that my uncle passed away, and we buried him in the cemetery in 1993. That's the time that I started looking after the cemetery. So we now have redone the graves properly, and we have made sure that the walls are in the best condition they are, although we need to repair the walls and change them again. But at the moment, it's in the best condition that we've had it. The rituals of the Jewish cleaning the body is exactly the same as the ritual of the cleaning of the body with the Muslims. We have the same way in preparing the body before it goes in the ground. And for us here in Bahrain, if we don't have a rabbi to bury somebody who has died, then it's better for us to bring a Muslim to clean the body before we bury that Jewish body. And for us, that is very halal. It is something that is correct. It is when my father was buried, we were lucky enough to have a rabbi here who instructed on how to do the rituals for the burial. But the Jewish Iraqi tradition for us is very simple. It's as simple as the Muslim traditions. But for certain types of Jews, the traditions are much more ritualistic in that they have a lot more ideas about covering the body in a certain way, washing the body in a certain way, and the kind of prayers they say for the deceased. Whereas the Iraqi Jews tend to only bury the body and say the Kaddish. And the Kaddish is what we say to bury a body, and we need 10 men to say the Kaddish and bury the body. For us, it is a very simple ritual, and it is the same with the Muslims. We have a lot of similarities like that, but the 3 cemeteries that are together in that area. Now, obviously, the Christian cemetery is full, so it's not used anymore. our Jewish cemetery is half full, and we have space to use it. But the rituals are very, very similar. If you look at the graves that are there at the back, you will see a lot of small graves. And the reason for that is in the old days, the children used to die from things like cholera, and that used to be the number one reason why children used to die. So we have a lot of small graves that reflect the children that died. The ones at the front, if we start off with my grandfather, Brahim Nunu, he passed away in 1959, and his body is buried there. So for us, he's the most prominent one that's buried in the cemetery. Next to him is my uncle, Azra, Allah yarhamah. And then we have Mr. Yusuf Akhduri, we have Mr. Hisqail. Hisqail used to be the money changer who unfortunately was shot in the souk. That story was from 1976. But with Hisqail, we had also the Reuben family. We had Farid Reuben, and their father, Dawood Reuben. They are there also. My father is buried there. Salah Yadgar is buried there. Ilyahu Yadgar. Those are the ones who are the most recent graves that are in the cemetery. I would just like to say a big thank you to our king, a very gracious king, who his family, who actually donated the land for the cemetery for the Jewish people, and it allowed Jewish life to flourish in going back 100 years. And it is a very noble gesture that the royal family has done for the Jewish community here in Bahrain.
خلصنا ملف اليهود، لكن القصة لا زالت مستمرة في البحرين لتشهد أحلى وأجمل أيامها في التسامح والتعايش. خلونا في الحلقة القادمة نشوف ملف آخر من ملفات التعايش السلمي في مملكة البحرين. مع السلامة.